Why is it that the people who seem to have the absolute most therapy under their belts are sometimes the ones who just, I don't know, struggle the most in the moment?
Oh, you mean the ones who can perfectly define things like attachment style?
Right. Exactly. They talk about setting boundaries all day. They know all their triggers inside and out. But then they're the exact same people snapping at their partner in the kitchen over, like, how the dishwasher is loaded.
Yeah, it's such a classic scenario.
Have you ever found yourself doing that? Because it's like you have this literal PhD in your own trauma. You have all the psychological vocabulary in the world. And yet there you are, standing in the dark after a long day, feeling that exact same tightness in your chest, that same, crushing sense of isolation.
It really is the ultimate modern paradox. I mean, we've never been more psychologically literate as a society.
Never.
And yet we are just profoundly stuck.
Yeah.
So today's deep dive is centering around this really resonant framework from an essay called Why Books Can't Teach You What Pain Can.
It's such a great title.
It really is. And it drops us straight into the experiential world of Gestalt therapy. So our mission today isn't to analyze your childhood or give you another coping mechanism to memorize.
Without those.
We really do. The goal is to bridge that incredibly frustrating gap between intellectualizing our feelings and actually experiencing them.
Right.
We're looking at how you move from the abstract map of psychology to the actual messy terrain of your lived experience.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because that disconnect between the map and the terrain, I think everyone listening feels that on a really visceral level.
Oh, absolutely.
Because you get into an argument over, I don't know, absolutely nothing. Someone used the wrong tone of voice.
Right, the classic wrong tone.
Exactly. And suddenly the room is just choking with silence. You retreat to your corner, and intellectually you can chart exactly what just happened.
You know all the steps.
Yeah, you felt triggered, your fight or flight response activated, you're projecting. But knowing mechanics of the argument does absolutely nothing to stop the physical pain of it.
Precisely. Because intellectualization is fundamentally a defense mechanism.
Wait, really? Just the act of knowing it is a defense?
Yeah. We think that if we study the fire closely enough, understand its chemical composition, read books about thermodynamics, we won't get burned when we stick our hand in it.
Well, okay, yeah.
But the reality is, life does not teach you in the safe, tidy margins of a psychology textbook. Life is what Gestalt therapists call the silent teacher.
The silent teacher. I like that.
Right. It teaches you in the heat of the moment. It teaches you when your body actively betrays that calm, put-together facade you're trying to project to the world.
But I have to push back a little here.
Sure.
Isn't knowing the psychology, like intellectualizing it, isn't that a really effective shield?
Well, how do you mean?
Think about it like a car. Intellectualizing our pain feels a lot like disabling the check engine light by putting a piece of black tape over it.
Oh, that's a brilliant analogy.
Right, because sure, you've solved the annoying blinking light of the immediate emotional distress, and that lets you keep driving to work and just functioning in society.
You still have to get to work.
Exactly. We intellectualize because getting burned actually hurts, and we have jobs to do and lives to run. We can't just fall apart all the time.
You're completely right about why we do it. Putting tape over the check engine light gets you to work that day. But what's happening under the hood?
The engine is still burning out.
The engine is actively burning out. The underlying mechanism of somatization, which is how our bodies process suppressed emotion that doesn't just stop because your conscious mind decided to look away.
Right. It's still happening in the background.
Exactly. And when you armor yourself with knowledge, it's this phenomenon known as spiritual bypassing.
Spiritual bypassing.
Yeah, where you use psychological jargon to avoid the collision with your own truth. You might quote a philosophy podcast to avoid feeling the terror of being abandoned.
Oh, I've definitely seen people do that.
Right. Or you use a term like non-attachment when, neurologically speaking, your body is screaming in a state of hyperarousal and desperate control.
So we basically spiritualize our avoidance until it looks indistinguishable from enlightenment.
That is exactly it.
We sound incredibly evolved, but underneath, the engine is catching fire.
Yes. And the foundational mechanism here is that the body remembers. You can trick your prefrontal cortex with logic all day long.
But the body knows.
The nervous system is keeping an exact physical tally Awareness isn't a cognitive exercise. It lives in the fascia, in the tension of your jaw, in the shallow rhythm of your diaphragm.
Wow.
If you don't attend to the physiological reality of the emotion, all that wonderful psychological wisdom you've accumulated is completely useless.
It just hovers there.
Exactly. It doesn't integrate. It just hovers in your brain, disconnected from your physical reality.
Okay, so if intellectualizing our feelings is just putting tape over the check engine light, how exactly is the engine breaking down?
Or like, what's the actual machinery under the hood?
Yeah. What causes these feelings to get stuck in the first place?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, we have to look at the biological mechanics of how human experience is supposed to flow.
Okay.
In Gestalt therapy, this is mapped out as the cycle of experience. It's a biological and emotional progression.
And what are the steps?
It goes like the sensation, then awareness, then mobilization, action, contact, satisfaction, and finally, withdrawal.
All right, let's ground that in reality, because I think our audience already gets the basics of emotional regulation.
Sure.
I don't want to talk about, realizing you're thirsty and getting a glass of water.
Yeah.
Let's look at a complex social scenario.
Okay, lay one on me.
Let's say you're in a high-stakes meeting, and a colleague, subtly but intentionally, undermines your expertise in front of your boss.
Oh, that's a perfect example.
Walk me through the cycle there.
Okay, so the cycle starts with sensation. Before you even process the insult cognitively, your amygdala fires.
Right.
Your body flushes, your chest tightens, maybe your cortisol spikes. That's purely biological.
Just a physical reaction.
Exactly. Then next is awareness. Your prefrontal cortex catches up and labels the sensation. You think, I'm angry. That was a deliberate insult.
Makes sense.
Next comes mobilization. Your body literally prepares for conflict. Your heart rate increases, pushing blood to your extremities. You are mobilized for action.
And this is where the train violently derails for most of us, isn't it?
Oh, completely.
Because the natural action and contact phase would be to turn to the colleague and firmly say, hey, what did you mean by that? Or to defend your position.
Right, that would be completing the cycle.
But instead, social conditioning kicks in. We realize it's unprofessional to cause a scene, so we swallow it.
We force a polite smile.
We nod. We interrupt the cycle.
We absolutely interrupt it. And then we numb the leftover biological energy with busyness, or we complain about it to a completely different coworker later.
Which doesn't actually fix anything.
No, it doesn't close the loop with the person who actually insulted us. Every time we do that, we halt the natural flow of our own nervous system.
Wait, practically speaking though, if I act on every sensation of anger at work, I'm gonna get fired.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Gestalt theory sounds great in a vacuum, but how does it survive the real world, where suppressing your feelings is quite literally a requirement for keeping your job?
It is the essential friction of modern life.
We can't just act on every impulse.
No, and Gestalt therapy isn't suggesting you throw a chair across the boardroom.
Okay, good.
The issue isn't that you chose not to yell at your colleague. The issue is what you do with the mobilized energy afterward.
Because it doesn't just go away.
Exactly. The feeling does not just fade. When you interrupt the cycle, when you force the smile and pretend you aren't angry, it leaves a residue.
A residue.
Yes. This creates what's called an unfinished gestalt. The biochemical readiness, that cortisol and adrenaline, it doesn't evaporate. It gets stored as chronic muscle tension.
Wow.
Your body literally stores the unspoken boundary in your throat and the unexpressed anger in your shoulders.
It's basically a paused physiological state. Like you press pause on a chemical reaction halfway through.
That's a great way to describe it.
And the chemicals are just sitting there degrading the container. And the crazy part of this framework is what happens next.
Oh, it gets wild.
The psyche hates an open loop. It hates an unresolved narrative. So it actively arranges mirroring situations to try and force you to finish the cycle.
Yes, and this is where psychology borders on the uncanny. It's a mechanism called repetition compulsion.
Repetition compulsion.
Yeah. If you have an unfinished gestalt, say, a deeply suppressed childhood wound of powerlessness, your unconscious mind will literally scan your environment for people and situations that match that exact emotional frequency.
So you just keep finding the same problems.
You will somehow consistently find bosses who micromanage you or partners who dismiss your opinions. It looks like bad luck.
It feels like the universe is punishing you.
Right. But the reality is much stranger. The paradigm shift here is that the universe, or really your own unconscious, is not punishing you.
It's an invitation.
Yes. It's giving you an invitation. Your brain is essentially setting up a simulation, bringing that unfinished business right back to your doorstep, saying, okay, here is the exact same dynamic that traumatized you.
We're mobilized again.
Right. We are mobilized. Can we please complete the action phase this time? The field literally organizes itself around what is incomplete.
That is just wow. The toxic dynamics you keep finding yourself in aren't random.
Not at all.
They're the field organizing to give you a chance to finally make contact, find satisfaction, and withdraw. The psyche just wants to heal.
It wants the open tabs closed.
Okay, so if these unfinished loops keep dragging painful situations back into our lives, dragging us into the same arguments with our partners, why on earth do we keep interrupting the cycle?
That's the million-dollar question.
If the check engine light is blinking, why do we keep putting tape over it instead of just opening the hood?
Because opening the hood is terrifying.
Yeah, I guess it is.
We don't interrupt the cycle out of laziness or ignorance. We do it for survival. Think about it. When you were younger, completing the cycle might have threatened your attachment to your caregivers. If you expressed your anger, you might have been punished or abandoned.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
That is such a vital, compassionate reframing.
It really is.
Disappearing into your head, intellectualizing, shutting down role, it wasn't a mistake.
No.
It was a brilliant, highly effective adaptation. It kept you safe when you were vulnerable. It helped you survive an environment that had absolutely no capacity to hold your big feelings.
Exactly. But the tragedy of human development is that the armor you built to survive your childhood is the exact thing keeping you from living your adulthood.
The defense mechanisms are outdated.
Completely outdated. You crave deep, authentic connection with your partner, but your nervous system still equates vulnerability with abandonment.
So you tense up.
You tense up and start quoting therapy concepts instead of just saying, I'm scared.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Because all that suppressed energy, those unfinished loops, they have to go somewhere, right?
They do. The ego cannot tolerate holding on to all that dissonance.
And this brings us to the mechanism of projection.
Yes. The quiet magician of the psyche.
The quiet magician. Let's look at the machinery of projection, because I feel like it is deeply misunderstood.
Oh, hugely. People think projection is just hypocritical lying.
Right.
But it isn't. Projection is an unconscious act of displacement.
How does that work?
Well, when you possess a trait or a feeling that your ego deems unacceptable, let's say, a profound, desperate need to be taken care of, your brain cannot tolerate the cognitive dissonance of acknowledging it.
It's too painful.
Way too painful. So it reroutes the neural recognition of that trait away from yourself and maps it onto an external target.
It's a psychological sleight of hand.
Exactly.
Because it's so much easier for my ego to look at a friend and label them as incredibly needy and exhausting.
Oh, so much easier.
Than it is to look in the mirror and admit my own absolute terror that no one is taking care of me.
Yes. Or it's far more comfortable to judge a colleague for being obsessively controlling than to sit quietly with your own paralyzing fear of losing autonomy.
What's fascinating here is how this ties back to the silent teacher we talked about.
Right, because the silent teacher uses these projections as a curriculum.
A curriculum.
Yeah. Every single time you find yourself having a massive, disproportionate, highly charged emotional reaction to someone else's behavior.
It's a signal.
It is almost a guarantee that a disowned part of yourself is waving hello from the shadows.
But wait, let me challenge that for a second.
Oh, for it.
Because if someone is actively being offered to me, if my boss is genuinely a controlling, micromanaging jerk saying that it's just a mirror for my own issues, borders on victim blaming, doesn't it?
That's a really fair point.
Sometimes people are just toxic. How do we differentiate between an actual external threat and a projection?
It's a crucial distinction, and Gestalt doesn't say the external reality isn't happening. Your boss might very well be objectively controlling. The projection isn't about excusing their behavior, it's about interrogating your disproportionate reaction to it.
So it's about the scale of the reaction.
Exactly. If a colleague is controlling and you have no unfinished business around autonomy, you will just find them annoying.
You just brush it off.
You'll set a boundary and move on.
Guy.
But if their controlling behavior sends you into a spiraling, obsessive rage where you can't sleep at night and you're grinding your teeth,
Then there's something else going on.
that level of charge is the indicator. The charge is yours. The other person is just the hook you hung your baggage on.
Wow. That really shifts the entire paradigm of interpersonal conflict.
It changes everything.
The curriculum for your growth isn't out there in the world trying to fix the toxic people around you. The curriculum is internal.
It always is.
It asks these piercing questions. Like, what if that partner you keep attracting, the one who constantly dismisses you, isn't just a string of bad luck? What if they are your most faithful messenger, holding up a mirror to the exact way you completely dismiss your own needs?
They're showing you the exact boundary you still refuse to draw. And your life will keep delivering these messengers until you finally receive the message.
Okay, so once we recognize this machinery, once we see that our repeated conflicts are just messengers and our physical tension is just the residue of interrupted cycles, how do we actually complete the cycle?
Right, getting to the actual healing.
Because we've firmly established that reading another book on Gestalt theory or listening to a deep dive about the nervous system isn't going to do it.
As much as we love doing deep dives.
Right. But how does the alchemy of actual healing happen?
It happens through a radical shift in how we pay attention. The core mechanism of change here is that awareness itself, when applied directly to the physical sensation, is healing.
Just awareness.
Just awareness. It is not about analyzing the past. When that colleague triggers you, the instinct is to go into your head.
Oh yeah, you think, why do they do that? What is their attachment style?
Exactly. How does this relate to my mother?
Yes. We try to figure it out.
And Gestalt says, stop. Drop out of the narrative. It is strictly about sensing what is stirring in your body in the present moment.
It's about attending, not fixing.
Yes.
Because we treat our minds like broken engines that need a mechanic. But attending is completely different.
It is.
It's not that hypervigilant, self-monitoring state where you're constantly grading your own healing process.
Precisely. You don't fix an emotion, you experience it.
That sounds simple, but I bet it's hard.
The practice is incredibly grounded, almost deceptively simple. When the trigger happens, you bring your awareness to the physical reality of your body.
Like what?
You notice the actual physical weight of your feet resting on the floor. You notice the heat in your chest. You notice the shallow rhythm of your breath.
Just noticing.
And here's the absolute most important part, the mechanism that allows the cycle to complete.
What is it?
You do not try to change it.
That goes against every instinct we have.
I know.
If my heart is racing, my immediate instinct is to take deep breaths to force it to slow down. I want to regulate it away.
But the moment you try to force yourself to calm down, you are interrupting the cycle again.
Oh, man.
You are rejecting the body's reality. True attending means saying, my heart is racing, my chest is tight, and I am simply going to sit here and allow my body to be mobilized without trying to shut it off.
Which feels terrifying because we expect healing to be this dramatic, cinematic breakthrough where we fall to our knees in the rain, screaming our truth.
And suddenly our trauma is vanished.
Exactly. But what you're describing is microscopic. Healing happens in these tiny, almost invisible, sacred completions.
Yes. A completion doesn't require a grand confrontation with your boss.
Right.
A completion is simply the moment you finally let yourself feel the anger without rationalizing it away.
Taking that one single breath.
Pausing the automatic reaction and choosing a response instead of firing off your old reflex. It's closing the loop internally.
You give that unfinished biological state the conscious contact it missed the first time around.
Exactly.
And what happens mechanically when we do that? Because there is this pervasive fear that if we actually let ourselves feel the bottomless grief or the terrifying rage, it will completely consume us.
We think we'll drown.
Right. We think our emotions are floods that will permanently drown us if we don't hold the dam up.
That is the grand illusion of the intellect. Neurologically speaking, an emotion, if not constantly refueled by a cognitive loop of rumination, has a remarkably short chemical half-life in the body.
So it passes quickly.
When you truly allow a feeling without resisting it, it doesn't operate like a flood, it operates like a wave.
A wave.
The sensation rises, it peaks in intensity, and then if you simply observe it without trying to fix it, it naturally recedes.
The biological cycle completes itself.
The nervous system downregulates.
It just moves through you. And when the water pulls back, you aren't broken. You haven't been destroyed by your own grief.
No, you're just clearer.
You finally allowed the experience to land.
And that is the contact and satisfaction phase of the cycle.
How beautiful.
The silent teacher isn't demanding that you achieve some mythical state of healed perfection where you never get angry again.
That doesn't exist anyway.
No, it is simply offering presence. It's allowing your physical reality to be exactly what it is in real time without needing a book to translate it for you.
So what does this all mean for you as you step away from this deep dive and back into your life?
That's the real question.
I think the most crucial takeaway is that the books, the podcasts, the highlighting of brilliant quotes, none of that was a waste of time.
Definitely not.
But they were never the destination. They are just the map. They're companions pointing you back to the only thing that actually matters, which is your own inner authority and your own physical reality.
True understanding, the kind that actually reshapes your neural pathways, it doesn't bring neat and tidy closure.
It rarely does.
It doesn't eliminate friction or suffering from your life. What it does is completely change your relationship to that suffering.
It makes your reactions more honest.
Exactly. You don't have to figure it all out today. You don't need a perfectly articulated thesis on why you are the way you are.
You just have to stay awake in your body while you're on the journey.
You just have to show up for what is alive in you right now.
Even if what's alive is uncomfortable.
Especially then. And if you stumble, if you fall back into an old pattern, if you put the tape back over the check engine light tomorrow and swallow your words again, do not use your psychological knowledge as a weapon to punish yourself.
That is so important.
Stumbling isn't failing. If you stumble, it just means you are in motion. You are walking the terrain instead of just staring at the map.
That is exactly the grace we need to give ourselves. It is a lifelong practice, not a destination.
Right.
But as we wrap up this exploration, I want to leave you with one final, deeply provocative thought to carry with you today.
I love these.
We talked about how the field organizes itself around what is incomplete, how life will keep bringing you mirrors until you close the loop. So think about your life right now. Think about the one specific situation or that one specific person that is causing you the most recurring friction, the most repetitive, frustrating pain.
Just picture them.
Look closely at that mirror. Look at the charge you feel. If life is truly setting up a simulation, begging you to finally complete this cycle, what is the exact sentence you've been swallowing for years that this situation is practically begging you to finally say out loud?